Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 19.04.01. This will cover the work undertaken between the 2nd of April to the 15th of April. Our sprint goal for this sprint will be to deliver the required front-end work to process the sending of emails in an enhanced queue management system. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint, we've been able to deliver the second phase of background service updates. This has enhanced the way bulk sending is processed within Colleague 7 and addresses a range of issues surrounding this area to ensure that you can queue a batch of emails for sending without issue. As part of the back office project, we've now delivered a new area within admin for managing exchange rates. This will be used later in the year when we get to invoice generation. We've investigated the ability to edit tasks in Colleague 7. A proof of concept was developed, and this will be part of the next sprint. We've added the option to assign a default team when creating a new user. This will allow you to have a team assigned to a user record when you are creating it, or also choose from the team selection a team associated to a new user when you're creating a user. We've offered an ownership, view all default user and global setting for requirement selection screen. We fixed an issue with the recalculation of the number of weeks when extending a placement. We've also ensured that a placement extension cannot be assigned a new end date that is prior to the original end date. And we've investigated an issue which has been raised with regard to certain scenarios when changing the company name. We've applied some updates there. We'll now go through a brief demonstration of the key features from this sprint. So there are a few things to go through in this sprint review. Not major things. It's another one of those sprints where a lot of the bulk of the work was done in the background. But in terms of physical differences to actually be seen within the UI, first point to go through is exchange rates. So this is the option that's been added now under the system segment of the admin area. You've got an exchange rates option. Just as always, there's a user group permission for this area. So if I go to the user group permissions sets group here, you'll see you've got exchange rates in there as an option to select whether or not you have access or not. But if we go to the exchange rates area here, what you'll see is on the left hand side a list of all of the currencies that you have, and that's driven by the currencies list of lookup. So sorry, if we go over in lookups, we go to currency codes here. These are all your currencies that you've added, and obviously you can add additional currencies yourself just by adding new lookups, but they'll be brought through into the exchange rates area, listing all of your currency codes there. The pound GBP will be set as your base currency, so that will have a set base value as an exchange rate of 1, and then essentially what you have is the means to be able to then add in exchange rates against the pound, so that you have that means of conversion when we get to invoice generation. So you have a euro to pound conversion. If we go against USD, you could have an exchange rate conversion there. We track the creation date of the exchange rate, also the amendment of the exchange rate, and you obviously can have multiple exchange rates applied. So if we do again for pound USD, and we'll say that the exchange rate is now at 130, let's say. Save that. What we now have is the exchange rate there. This is still active, set to no. This is still your active exchange rate, but if you wanted to switch it, you could just set that to yes, and then that's now your active exchange rate, and the other one's been set to no. So you could create multiple exchange rates within here and then switch to whichever is the active exchange rate that you're using at that time at the point of invoice generation. So really this is just the underlying kind of administrative components in relation to invoice generation. We haven't got to the part actually where you have a back office area and that, but we're very much still implementing kind of the bone structure that exists behind the scenes to accommodate that, and exchange rates is one of those. We also have we've done POs, we've done commission splits, we've done we're currently doing rebates. They're all just components of the back office area. But that was exchange rates that was done in this sprint. The next point to cover, and it's just a minor point, is in relation to assigning a default team against the user when creating a new user, and also selecting other teams if need be for that user. So if we start within the teams area, one option we've added, and it's similar to how it would work with lookups, you have an option for default. So you've got a default team option here, and you can set that to yes. And that will be your default team. So when you're creating a new user record, it's by default assigned against this team. Depending on your team structure, there may be a root team or an appropriate team as the default team. But when you're creating a new user now, what you'll see is that the default team will be assigned, but you simply have the means to be able to assign. We have the means to be able to assign other teams to the user as part of creating the user record. So by default, it will show the default team in the team field, but you can select other teams here if you choose to. So that's the team option that's been added now to the user creation process. Okay, so the last point to cover is just again just another little minor point. It's the owned by option that's on a requirements selection screen. If you are in a managerial position, you don't want to look at only your requirements, then when you're using this area, you will frequently have to select view all as part of doing that, which is becoming an irritation. So what there is now is a user setting that's under a requirement section that will allow you to assign owned by default on requirement selection screen, whether that's the current user, which is to say your user, or whether that's to view all. And if it's set to view all, then whenever you're accessing this area, you'll see that view all is assigned against owned by. If it's set to current user, which would be the kind of default behavior when loading this selection screen, it would show the current user, which is your user and your associated team. So that's a minor update that was made there in relation to the ownership field on the requirement selection screen. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 19.04.02, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.